Welcome to the second of my motorcycle trips around Goulburn and villages and settlements around Goulburn. In this one I'm going to be heading east to start off with, and throughout the ride, which will be over a number of clips, I will be going east, then south, then west and then north, back to Goulburn. Now, for those who haven't seen my previous motorcycle videos, I'll give you a very quick technical rundown about my bike and my setup and so on. My bike is a Kawasaki Vulcan Voyager 1700 with cruise control and ABS. Now, as far as the camera setup goes, I have a GoPro camera which is attached to the windscreen of the bike with a suction cap, one of those plastic suction cap things, and I turn on the power, press record and let it do its thing. The camera itself has a very sensitive microphone, and it picks up the engine noise, it picks up the gear changes, and it picks up the music coming out of the audio system. And because of that, I have problems with copyright. So what I do is, when I process the video footage, I mute the original sound and then record this voiceover later on. So it's not quite as authentic as listening to me talk while I'm riding, but because of the copyright issues, I don't do that. Secondly, I wear a full face helmet, and even with the visor open, if I was talking and doing a karaoke, and believe me, if you're doing karaoke you don't want to hear me do that, but if I was talking, I don't think the microphone would pick up my voice over the engine noise and the wind noise and the gear changing and the music and all that other stuff. So the audio is, as I said, recorded later. Now, this is a very simple one-person operation with no sophisticated editing software and no sophisticated audio system. I'm just using the microphone in my computer and making it up and talking about things as I go along, and hopefully what I'm talking about is sufficient to keep you interested. And then I combine the audio and the video and produce the movie. That's the best way to put it. For those who are trying to figure out where we are and where I am, I'm just on Clinton Street near the Auburn Street intersection. Traffic lights. Nothing more boring than sitting in traffic lights, but that's, I guess, one of the facts of life. And when you most want the traffic light to change, it won't. So I guess you just have to sit there and look at the number plate of the car in front of you for the moment. And we're off again. And as you can see, fuel stop, we're all fueled up. We're all fueled up. I love that royal plural. I must stop doing that. I'm fueled up and I'm ready to go. So I'm heading out of the Woolworths complex on Clinton Street. And this is for the locals who know the road's going down towards Sloane Street. And then at the intersection, making a right-hand turn onto Sloane Street and then out towards the Braidwood Road. Now, I should say at this point, this is the third time I've taken this ride in recent times. To explain all of that, it's not that I don't like doing the ride, I love it, but the first time I did it, I had the GoPro camera attached to the windshield of the bike. I pressed the power button. I thought I'd pressed the record button. I rode for 2 and a bit hours and got home and thought I'd just pop the SD card in the computer and see what the footage looks like and so on. It turned out I'm not a very good camera operator, and I had not pressed the record button, or if I had pressed it not long enough, and no footage was taken. The second time I did it, I had a chest harness, and I had a GoPro camera attached to that chest harness, and I thought, well, I won't have to worry about record. I pressed record and I could see that it was recording, and the only problem was the seating position on the bike is quite low, and so what you got to see was the dashboard of the bike, which is interesting for a little while because it's got dials and idiot lights and all that sort of stuff, but it's not what I wanted you to see, and I probably could have only used that for about 10 seconds to hold your attention, and then I would have had to get onto footage like this. So this is the third time. The GoPro camera is now attached to the windscreen with one of those plastic suction cap things. The actual mount where the camera sits broke, so I got some magic glue of some sort and glued it all together, and hopefully it will last. It's filming quite well now. I hope what you can see is interesting for you to see, and we're off on our adventure. I'm going to make a left turn here over the railway line and then onto the Braidwood Road. So coming down this hill, if you continue to follow the white car ahead, you'd go to Braidwood, which is about 80 kilometres away. As you can see, I'm about to take the left turn and go onto what's called the Bungonia Road. Called Bungonia because it leads out to Bungonia National Park. Coming up on the left, very shortly, you might see a red tower, which was the old Goulburn brewery that in the colonial days operated as a brewery and then closed down and reopened in the, I'm not sure if it's the 70s or 80s, and ran as a brewery for a little while longer, and now is closed again. Just see it there. About to cross the Mulwaree River on the Lansdowne Bridge. It's called the Lansdowne Bridge because there's a property just up over the rise. It's called Lansdowne. There was a timber bridge that covered this river and was here for about 100 years and then just wore out, and it was decided to replace it with this concrete one. I think it opened in about 2018, maybe 2019. On my YouTube channel, if you come across the videos that way, under the Goulburn videos you'll find a video of the old bridge and some of the building works for this bridge, and under the motorcycle vlogs you'll also see a short review of my motorcycle, just so you know what it looks like. Now we're out on the Bungonia Road and we're heading towards, I'm heading towards a settlement called Windellama. I'm calling it a settlement because actually when you get out there's not much more than a school, and then a little bit further on from the school there's a community hall and I think a volunteer fire brigade shed. So this is heading east away from Goulburn. And as you look at the condition of the road for a moment, you'll see at this point there are some markings on either side and a marking down the centre of the road, and there are those plastic guideposts on the side of the road, which is all very handy. So the road in this case, although the camera sometimes seems a bit shaky, is in pretty good condition. It's not full of potholes and it's not patches up patches. I'm just going over now the overpass for the Goulburn bypass, the Hume Highway bypass Goulburn about 15 years ago, and a couple of overpasses were built so that for existing roads, of course. Hope I'm making that clear. Technical stop here was I stopped to make sure the camera was properly attached to the screen and make sure all the adjustments were tightened so that it wouldn't wobble around and flap around while I was riding. That didn't turn out to be as successful as I thought it would be, because at one stage the camera was flapping against the screen and making a really irritating noise. You're not able to hear that, of course, because I've muted that sound, but I had to stop and do that. Coming up fairly shortly, I think I may have even passed it already, is the Goulburn Airport. Not a commercial airport, there are no commercial flights land there, mainly just hobbies and people who I guess take joy flights. People have planes out there and feel like going for a flight somewhere and then coming back, or maybe they fly somewhere on a business trip or something. You can learn to fly there, and you can also learn to skydive. The road here to me feels what I call spacious, in the sense that it's the tree line is a little back from the road, so it feels a bit more open and spacious, as opposed to when you go a bit further along. And some of the other roads that I've ridden on, and you'll see in my previous videos, the tree line is right up against the edge of the road and throws shadows on the road, and you feel a bit more closed in. It's not any less safe, it just feels here that because it's open like this, it feels a bit more spacious. As you can see, the no markings on the sides of the road here, and the shoulders are not well made here either. So if you pull off, you have to be a bit cautious about putting down a stand on your bike, especially with my bike, because it's a heavy bike, and trying to haul it back up off the stand if it's got a big lean angle on it isn't an easy thing to do. We're coming up to the section along this road that's called the Gundari Plains. I think some people say Gundari, but Gundari, G-U-N-D-A-R-Y is how it's spelt. So I think that's Gundari is probably correct. What's notable about this, the reason it's called the Gundari Plains, is because it's nice and flat. And at one stage, I think maybe in the 90s, it was being talked about as a possible location for Goulburn, for Sydney's second airport. I'm sure that the people who live out this way, and there are people who live out here, we're glad that didn't eventuate. I guess we're all a bit not in my backyard for an airport. You can imagine the noise and the flight paths of planes that would have gone across Goulburn if the airport had been built here. But Goulburn is about 2 hours by road from Sydney, and so it would have been necessary to build a high-speed rail link from the airport to Sydney, because most people who fly into Australia fly into Sydney or Canberra or Brisbane or somewhere like that. They don't fly into Goulburn. So they want to be in the capital cities because that's where the hotels are, that's where the tourist attractions, or some of the tourist attractions are, and if they're here on business, that's where their business is going to be. So if you've spent 13, 14, 15 hours on an international flight, and you land in Goulburn, then you've got to spend whatever amount of time it is on a train, hauling your luggage off the plane and onto a train, no matter how fast the train is. I don't think that's the kind of thing most people want to do. So as you probably know, the second international airport for Sydney is now being built in Western Sydney, and there are road links and rail links and all that sort of stuff, and still there is talk of high-speed rail from Sydney to Melbourne, but in the 40 years I've been in Goulburn, or over 40 years I've been in Goulburn, that's been talked about, but it hasn't eventuated yet. This is mostly agricultural land out here, sheep, and I think maybe some beef cattle. Every now and again along the side of the road you come to a line of pine trees, or even poplar trees. And I think pine trees are probably planted as windbreaks for the properties that are set back from the road a bit, and also a bit of a privacy thing. Poplars will be planted for the same reason. In winter they're just trunks that are bare because they're deciduous, whereas in spring and autumn they look quite colourful. As I said, this is the first leg of this ride. We won't get to Windellama on this leg of the ride. I'll certainly let you know when we get to it in the next leg, but I would suggest that you don't look away from the screen then, because we'll go past the school and you'll miss Windellama. And we're coming up to the end of the first leg now, so I'll say thank you to all those of you who are watching, and next clip will be coming shortly, and I hope you will keep watching and watch all the clips and enjoy the round trip.